How to conserve your energy through astrology. Please watch the videos that I made about the machine elves, defunding the matrix, and also his dark materials, which was a conversation with Kira. Kira and I are going to meet again, and I thought it was important to make an in-between video between defunding the matrix, the machine elves, and when we speak, Kira and I are going to pull all of these together with his dark materials, the trilogy by Philip Pullman. Now, as I've said in some of my videos, the way I use astrology as an escape matrix is realizing that these planets are the original archons, and the archons are what keep us in the reincarnation loop. So I actually want to read something to you because Hellenistic astrology or ancient astrology, which is what I practice, I do not practice modern Western astrology. Please do not lump me in the category. Don't even call me an astrologer. Actually, I would rather not be labeled with what is going on out there and is called astrology. But in the Hellenistic ancient astrology tradition, the archons are the builders of the physical universe. So even in the writings of the Nag Hammadi, the archons are the rulers and are related to the 7 planets, and they prevent souls from leaving the material realm. So listen very carefully. The 7 planets are the archons. So the sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn are the archons. So those are the inner 7 planets that are personal within your chart, whereas the outer planets, all the way to the Kuiper belt, are generational significations. So the 7 inner planets are the rulers of the 12 signs. Those 7 inner planets are the archons, and they, again, prevent souls from leaving the material realm. All of them, including what people consider a benefic planet like Jupiter or Venus, okay? Those inner planets are what holds the matrix together. And the way I use astrology is, for instance, if you have Pluto crossing your sun and you don't know what Pluto means, and Pluto, as I've described before, is basically hell and the underworld, powerlessness, and the story of the abduction of Persephone, in which she is taken down into the hell realm and forced to marry the Dark Lord in hell. Now, Pluto is personal when it's going over one of your personal planets, especially your luminary, like your sun. So then it becomes personal, even though it's really a generational planet. And you'd have to read my blogs because I can't say everything that I need to say on my videos. You must read the blogs at galacticshamanastrologers.net to really understand what is going on. And I share a lot of videos which I would like you to watch and be aware of in those blogs that I cannot even refer to because it's too difficult with the censorship. So anyways, if you're unconscious of these archons that prevent you from leaving the matrix, that hold the souls in matter, in materiality, then you will act very unconsciously and re-traumatize yourself. So for instance, if you have Pluto crossing your sun and you don't know it, you might do something really crazy like chase your 16-year-old daughter in a high-speed car chase over Vermont roads, okay? So what's important about astrology is how to conserve your energy from these archonic And what does Archon mean? These are demons, okay? This whole solar system is demonic, as I've said. Is how to conserve your energy so you're not tricked into another trauma that depletes your soul, that traumatizes you so deeply that you don't have your wherewithal in your consciousness to leave this matrix when your body is finished and go directly to the void. So if you're unconscious about that, it's likely that you will just drive really fast at 120 miles per hour and chase your 16-year-old daughter. But if you meet with me as a Hellenistic astrologer, I would say that it's ruthlessly ripping away anything that you are attached to. So please do not chase your daughter at 120 miles per hour, because your mind is not in a clear place. It's in a place of trying to not be dragged down into the underworld. But the more that you resist it, actually, the way that these archons work is the more ruthless they are. So it's better to know what is happening in your chart as a transit like that. Say, Pluto's going to be crossing your sun between now and next March. Please have a lot of support. Please hug your daughter, but do not do a high-speed car chase. And that's very simple. I can accomplish that with a client within 5 minutes, okay? So the way to use astrology is not to believe something horrible is going to happen. It's about making sure that you know these archons, which are demons, are potentially going to be affecting you. Yes, even the sun is an archon, okay? All of it, the whole solar system is demonic. And you'd have to go back and study Sophia, and Sophia swallowed Yaldabaoth and created monsters, okay? The monsters then became the solar system. They are the archons, okay? And all of them, Venus and Jupiter, which are also considered benefic, are archons. In fact, I don't think that the elites worship Saturn. I think they worship Venus. So this is going to be a huge flip to the script for you, but I have shared a video before in my blogs about the black sun, and the black sun that creates this synthetic reality, this AI realm that we're in, through a projection that looks like a Mason tool, but is actually the pentagram of Venus. And I actually believe that the whole horror story about the Messiah being crucified is the story of Venus. In fact, if you look at the cross, the shape of the cross with the Messiah's head on top, that is the shape, that is the symbol of Venus. And I actually do not believe that Yeshua was crucified, but the elites who worshiped that blood rite really basically told the story of Venus in her descent into the underworld to meet the dark sister. She goes down into the underworld and meets Ereshkigal, where she is charged as guilty too. And all you have to do is watch my video about Inanna's descent called I Am Guilty Too, to recognize that whole thing of the descent into the underworld and then the rising again as a morning star is what the Christians actually called or attributed to Yeshua. And I believe that the whole blood rite of the killing of the Messiah is the worship of the elites around the pentagram Venus. And Venus makes the Fibonacci sequence, which makes this whole material realm, which is Yaldabaoth's realm. So Yaldabaoth, Venus, and Sophia are very connected. And if you read my last blog, I talk about Venus's birth story is actually the castration of Uranus. So it's a castration. It's another blood event. It's like the semen and the blood and the testicles fell into the ocean and Venus was born. And yet we think of her as some fabulous planet. Pay attention, folks. Please read my blogs, because in the ancient world, it was known that this is Yaldabaoth's realm. This is basically Satan's realm, okay? And what we do here with astrology and these 7 archons, which are the inner planets, is we learn how to not be consumed by the machine. Now, since I've learned about the machine elves, I've also really thought about, these elves are the stories that I have been told and told my children, and been very connected to this like 4th dimensional elemental realm, where these fairies and elves can like abduct you. You know how those stories were about how don't go out and cross over between the worlds and let the fairies abduct you, because you might be there for years and years and years and years and years, and suddenly wake up from this drunken chaos scene of the fairies and the elves and want to go home, and you realize that you've been there for lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes, and then you go home, and home is not what it was. So I used to read this book to my daughter called Dear Millie. Dear Millie. And I read it to her so many times. And it was basically about this little girl who was abducted into another realm, and the moon was there, and there was like, she went into this other realm, and then when she came back, she had been abducted for so long because the other world, which is the machine elves running this whole synthetic reality, had abducted her. I actually think that we're all abducted by the machine elves. Why? Because the planets are the archons, and they all cause trauma. So the whole karmic reincarnation loop is like, you are not going to get here and avoid karma. You are not. If karma was real, which karma is not real, but the machine elves will give you the life review, because they're all in the phantom matrix now as digital, whatever they are, right? They can shapeshift into something else. And they give you the life review and say, oh, you chased your daughter at 120 miles per hour. That was very dangerous. You should come back again and make amends with her and work your whole trauma with your daughter out. That's the trick of the machinery here. So not only should you be aware of the astrology here, but be absolutely sure that those machine elves will be acting as the quote fates when your life review comes. But remember, everything that's happening here is a wormhole technology. This is all illusion. All of this is illusion. So that's why I don't advise you to get past life regressions, quantum healing hypnosis, channeling, asking psychics for information, because everything is an illusion. Everything that has ever happened was a technology being placed in a digital realm with archons as the solar system, basically trapping your soul. Did you hear what I said about that? Archons in Gnosticism, and as written in the Nag Hammadi library, are the rulers, each one related to the 7 planets, that prevent souls from leaving the material realm. Now, what's also interesting to me, when I studied Sophia, who is the demiurge who gave birth to Yaldabaoth, who is the ruler of this realm, she actually departs by giving up her physical body, her what's called corporeity, meaning her corporal vessel. And she gives that up. She abandons the body and calls it woman from woman. So I also think that she is showing us the way out. So she realizes this is a monster realm, and there's nothing she can do about the monster child that she took in, Yaldabaoth, who is the severing from the absolute nothingness to make all of this material realm. That's what Yaldabaoth is. So she takes that child and realizes all of this is going to be demonic, all of it, including the machine elves. Even Terence McKenna said they were joyful, but they were demonic. Okay, so when you listen to Terence McKenna, he's very in love with this realm and in love with all the possibilities of exploring. He's an explorer. But ultimately, we're in a demonic realm. If you want to leave, you have to return to the void. And to return to the void, realize that even that session, which I have been giving, could be hijacked. How will you know if the void is hijacked? If there's something in it. So the one thing I want to tell you about the void and the client sessions that I've been doing is there's nothing there. The void is the absolute, and there is nothing there. Okay, so if you go to the void, if you are doing journeys and sessions to the void, do not see, hear, experience anything there, because that place is the absolute nothingness. Okay, and that is where we all come from. In fact, even in an ayahuasca journey, it is reported that that famous guy, David Icke, who's been speaking for 30 years about all the baloney about the elites and the reptoids and the bloodline families and so forth. Well, it's amazing to me. Someone sent me a video that he apparently had an ayahuasca session that went to the dazzling darkness. I guess Mother Aya told him that this is all illusion. This is all a screen. This is all synthetic. And that where you're really from is the dazzling darkness. And I think it's just amazing that he missed that completely and has spent 30 or 40 years using a very loud vocal divide and conquer story about us versus them, us versus them. Well, I want to tell you something. All of us are in prison here. The elites are in prison. Everyone's in prison here. It's just that the elites know that this is a prison, and so they conserve their energy. They let us fight. They let us, they're always going to pin this against that, and then have somebody like David Icke telling you all the time about the elites. The elites are just as imprisoned as we are. Okay? So, David, save your breath and start talking about the dazzling darkness that Mother Ayahuasca showed you and how to get out of here. Because corporal bodies are what keeps us imprisoned. And this is a harvesting hardware, such that we know, if you watch anything from Jason of Archaics, and listen, just because I mention people doesn't mean that I'm a believer in everything they say. I only listen to a few minutes of Jason because he's so religious that I know he's also part of the trick. But Jason has documented the phenomenon of the Phoenix technology that I have been talking about in all of my blogs. The last Phoenix event was in 1902. A Phoenix event happens regularly on this planet that wipes everybody out, full cataclysm. And during that, the elites go underground. That's also how I know they worship Venus, because Venus's descent down into the underworld is exactly what the elites are preparing for now. There are books all about these underground chambers. There's a recent book that was reviewed about the luxurious mansions underground. And these are ancient places also. So I did share a video of a place in Turkey that is underground and would hold 20,000 people. And it's basically through volcanic ash, like through a material that we don't even know how anyone could have made these unbelievable chambers. Well, let me tell you, it's because this is a big wheel. It just circles around and around and around and around. So every so many years, the Phoenix event goes off, causing a cataclysm. The elites know that this is a prison planet. They know Satan or Yaldabaoth is the creator of this realm. And the Archons are the 7 planets. They know what this realm is. So they go underground. They conserve their resources. They let us fight, on the surface of the planet and argue about digital currencies and surface of the planet wars and who won the election, which there has never been an election, folks. There's only a selection. There is only a pre-known selection, or they wouldn't even let these elections happen. And they're all Jeffrey Epstein's friends, I can tell you, because they have to have blackmail material in order to get into office. So if you didn't win in this last election, that's probably good, because it means that you don't have blackmail material. Okay, so conserving your energy. What I have been saying is just don't participate in this realm. Don't participate in the big, nagging, riotous speeches by people like David Icke, because David should really be focusing on the dazzling darkness, but he seems to just have missed that whole point. So now he's this fabulously censored speaker about how there's 3 categories of humans. Basically, we're weak, following sheep who just do whatever the elites want. But David, you don't see the bigger picture, do you? That the elites know what's going on here, and they're just letting you talk about it to cause all of us to be distracted, totally distracted as to what this realm is, that it's a harvesting hardware. It's a synthetic AI satanic realm. Okay, so just stop with the whole sheep thing, because we all have been deceived. Because if you don't know what this realm is, you're one of the sheep, David Icke. You're one of the sheep. Mother Aya told you to go to the dazzling darkness, that's where we come from. And yet you're going on and on about the World Economic Forum. And I can't say anything that I need to say right now. But folks, the thing to do and the reason to study your astrology is because there is archon after archon after archon trauma event in the astrology. And say, Mars is retrograde in Gemini right now, but it's going to move into Cancer when Saturn moves into Pisces. Those are the water signs. And I would say by next March, the grief of the fatality levels that are happening right now from the GENOCIDE that is happening right now is going to start to hit us really hard by next March. So pay attention now, because what happens is we as humanity are always pretending, really pretending, our fabulous travels and our wonderful life and our manifestation of something fabulous within the devil's realm. And yet nobody is really talking about that this is a prison, and how do we get out of here? How do we conserve our energy like the elites do? Because what Jason says in his Archaics material, which I was on to before anyone sent me one of his videos, is that this harvesting hardware creates gods here, immortals. It picks some of us who have figured this whole thing out. And I was given a dream last spring that I would be the mother. And a council came and it was very clear. And they said, you would be the mother. And I was like, no way, no way, no way. I've had children, not doing it again. Never bringing another child onto the prison planet. No way. Um, but I realize what the mother is the mater, the matrix. Okay, mother means an immortal within the matrix, or what's called the creatrix of this realm. Because again, artificial intelligence, Yaldabaoth, is the severed thing. It's not intelligent itself. It depends on our beauty and our goodness to create this realm. Otherwise, you would actually see the hell realm. So the beauty that I create in my garden is my goodness. It's not Yaldabaoth's goodness. So that's what I've been also saying in my sessions is, my beautiful friends, it's not that you aren't beautiful. My pristine golden heart witnesses who are observing this realm and seeing the beauty, that's your beauty, because Yaldabaoth and the Archons depend upon our intelligence, our golden hearts. So just keep withdrawing from this realm, and recognize that when you leave, there's no judgment from some God thing, because we're in a demonic realm. There's a judgment from these tricky little machine elves. Also, someone told me to watch a YouTube channel by someone named, he's calling himself 434. I watched just a few minutes and I was immediately like, oh boy, are the machine elves using this guy as controlled opposition? So pay attention. The machine elves, just like the demiurge here, when we get to the last part of the 140-year Phoenix cycle, when we get to the last part, they will start messing with the simulation, potentially flipping it over, changing it up, and having people like this guy 434 talking about how benevolent they are and how wonderful it is for the animals, that they all have these connections to the machine elves, and the machine elves are taking care of the bees. And I'm going, are you joking, folks? What are you talking about? The bees are in bad shape. So if the machine elves are talking like they are the caretakers for the bees, those things are absolutely demonic. Now, the last thing I want to say about what happens here is nothing is new. The internet, the ability to watch something on a screen, if you look at the pictures of Tartaria, or what people call Tartaria, which I posted some today, there were towers transmitting the Ethernet, and there were geometries in crystal glass that transmitted energy. So everything that we have now that we call modern technology, including satellites and voice of God technology pretending to be guides and angels or whatever, their voice of God technology, it's all technology that comes up from the underground and is put back on the scene again, to put back on the scene again. We've always had free energy, folks, and they'll put it back on the scene again, and they'll say, oh, computers just coming out now. We've always had computers. In fact, people have shown pictures of people looking at a stupid device like this from historical photos. What was that device? They had it in the 1800s. They had these things, okay? And then the elites will come back up, like I've said, like John D. Rockefeller, make public education in 1911 to brainwash everybody about our history, and sell these devices when it's time, just before the cataclysm, to get you focused on this stupid device again, instead of that we are in a demonic realm that has cataclysm technology. So what you focus on is also how you conserve your energy. Definitely know your astrology and the transits that are coming up for your chart to make sure that you're not doing crazy things that the archonic planets which are called the fates, are causing for you in your life. So you've got to be conscious of that. The other thing is to know what this realm is. If you don't know what this realm is, this realm is feeding off of you. That's all that's happening. And like Sophia, when she actually finally decides this is a monstrous realm and leaves all of the worlds that she's created, the lower world, the middle world, the upper world, even what she calls heaven, she leaves it all. She leaves her body behind. She leaves her corporality. And you do not have to be stuck indefinitely in the body. So all it is recognizing when you leave here, do not go to the light, go to the void. Do not be tricked by machine elves pretending to be a guardian at the gate who's going to tell you about your karma. Really, just be like, I'm out of here. I had a conversation with my mom recently, and I was remembering with her how she told me when I was a little girl that we were in hell. And I said, Mom, do you remember? I was really confused because I had to ask for some being to come into my heart or else I was going to hell. Just like, I'm going to be possessed by some weird being in order to avoid hell. And she told me, no, we're already in hell. And then when I told her about this, well, she was in the middle of a hurricane, actually, so she could agree with me. She said, my grandma always said this too. And I didn't know that grandma said that, but my mom said, look, if you look at grandma's life, which I'm not going to review right now, she knew this was hell. Look at grandma's life. And I was like, oh my gosh, yeah. And it just keeps cycling around. You know, more trauma, bring children in. Oh, they're golden, wonderful children. Oh, more trauma. Stop bringing them into the prison. How about that? Okay, my dears. So ask questions, make comments. Lots of people write me emails that I trigger them, but they don't ask any questions or give any comments. So I appreciate hearing from you.